Hi guys, I'm going to take you through my editing workflow now. This image is pretty typical of my work. It's my favorite blanket that I use a lot, and this is a pretty standard starting point for me, so I thought it would be a good example to use. I find when shooting Canon that it's often a little bit red out of camera, so I like to take a bit of red out of the overall image by going to Image, Adjustments, Color Balance, and clicking Highlights and dragging the red slider over a bit, maybe -9 or so for here, and then adding a bit of yellow. We'll go -3, so before and after. So that's made a bit of a start. I find with newborn skin that you do have to work in sections. So where the skin might look nice in some areas, it'll be really yellow and saturated in some areas, or like this arm doesn't really have enough color. We need to add some red, and you see under the chin here it's very saturated. So we might start by fixing this area here, and I do that by choosing the lasso tool and then setting the feather. So it's a small area, so we just need a small number there. For a bigger area you would make that number bigger as well. So we'll select that, go to Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and lower the saturation down. Move the slider towards the left, and then we want to lighten the area a bit, so we'll just lighten by moving the slider to the right. We'll come back out a little bit. And I want to fix a bigger area now, so I'm changing my feather as well to a larger number. So this area here is just looking a bit yellow. So Image, Adjustments, Color Balance. Remove some yellow by dragging it over towards the blue area. And I find this area here is it's a little bit too dark. So Image, Adjustments, Levels. This right slider here, you can drag that to the left to brighten. You can also use this one in the middle to lift the midtones a bit. There. Now I want to work on baby's arm and also mum's hand here. I just find there's not quite enough color. It's just looking a bit lifeless and a bit sort of yellowish, greenish. So we want to add a bit of red. Image, Adjustments, Color Balance, add a bit of red. There's also another way to sort of work on these sections by using the adjustment layer here, and I'll show you how to use that when I'm doing the black and white, so then you can choose which way you want to work. Again, this area here just still needs a little bit of red. So you add the red. Once you've clicked OK, you just click Command D to get rid of your selection. I'm finding this area here is actually still just a little bit too saturated. Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and lowering that down a little bit. And this area here I feel could also do with just being lifted a bit, so we'll brighten it a bit, add a little bit of contrast, and add a little bit of color as well. So just a little bit of red and yellow together will just give that a little bit more color. Now we want to get rid of the little imperfections. I use the patch tool, so set that to normal and click that first option here, and then just draw around it, click inside and drag, and then Command D to get rid of your selection. So draw around it, click inside and drag. So we'll just do those tiny little ones. There were quite a few more of these, but you don't need to see me get rid of all of them, so I just will do these little ones. Then I will drag this background layer down here to copy it. And then we'll keep going. We can do bigger areas now. Just any little area that isn't quite looking right, or it's a bit dark, or a bit of a shadow. It's going to look a bit rough, but we'll lower the opacity, and then it'll just kind of blend everything in nicer, and it just makes for a really nice black and white because everything is a little bit more smooth. So don't worry about the fact that it's looking a bit like we're butchering the skin. We'll just do a few. and then we'll lower that opacity down to around 50. Before, after. Just got rid of a few more of these imperfections. This area here we could do as well. And also here, we don't want to get rid of these hairs on the arms because they're super cute, but you just might want to blend in some of these areas a little bit better. Now that the opacity is down at 50, you can see that it's blending it in quite nicely, but it's still keeping those hairs there. Great. So we'll go, might just get rid of that little area there. Layer, flatten. I use a plugin called Portraiture. Whoops, sorry. And I'll select that. And I have it set to default, and then I have it set to create a transparency mask. So click OK, and it comes up here. You can just click here so that we can only see this area, and then select that background copy there, and make sure it's set to white, and choose your eraser, and then erase back the hair, eyes, eyebrows, nose, mouth. And I always erase it off Dad's hands, and also Dad in general. I just don't want the dads to look too feminine, so I don't like to smooth their skin. And then I'll reduce the opacity to around 50, 55 or so, depending on your preference. Around 50 is mine. Then layer, flatten. A lot of people keep all of the work that they do over here, but for some reason I just always flatten. I don't think that I need all those layers. I don't ever tend to go back and change anything. I'll just remove that little one here. You can select this area here. If you just want to like sharpen it a bit, bring it out a bit more, you can go to Filter, Sharpen, On Sharp Mask, and set this slider here till around 11 or so, and this slider here till maybe 12, 13. If you click before and after, I'll zoom in. So before and after, before and after. It just kind of defines the contrasty areas a bit more, gives a bit more definition to the face. And we might go Image Adjustment Levels and bring this slider here over to the right a little bit. It just darkens the shadows a little bit more. And that's the color version finished. If you wanted to tidy up the blanket a little bit over here, you could select the color picker and click, and that'll select one of the colors in the blanket. Then choose your brush and go maybe 20, 30, and just brush over, and that's a nice way to kind of blend the blanket in a little bit more. That was a bit much. I find that this blanket here is looking just a little bit blue almost, so we might select that. Go Image Adjustment, Color Balance, and add a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red. It's not a big difference, but if you tend to faff the way I do, you just end up doing these little things. I'm just selecting this area of the blanket just to lighten it just ever so slightly. I don't tend to go into this much detail with every image, I must say, but if I do want to make it perfect, then I do. So that would be the color edit done. This is before, this is after. Before and after. Okay, to make this a black and white, you want to make sure that your black box over here is at the top and the white is at the bottom. So it's got to be black at the top and the white's got to be at the bottom. Then go Image Adjustments, Gradient Map, and click OK. And this is where now we want to work on selections. You know, we want to lighten some of these areas. We might want to darken the arm a little bit. And you can do the same way that I just showed you with the color edit and use the lasso tool and set the feather and just work on those areas. To select an area, go into image adjustments and curves and lift the midtones or go to levels to brighten. But another way is to click this layer, this adjustment layer here, and then click curves. And then we're going to lift the midtones, and it's going to make the adjustment to the whole photo, but just look at the face, and that's what we're looking at only. Then we'll click Command I and it'll take away that adjustment from the whole photo, and you can paint on. So click the white one to the top, choose 100% opacity, and then now you can draw that, paint that lightness on. And if you feel it's not quite enough, you can now just go over and lift it up a bit more and it'll change it accordingly. So once you feel that that's how you want it to be, you click Layer, Flatten. Again, I just flatten all the layers. You can click it again. This little icon here is the circle with the black and white. It's the adjustment layer icon. Click it and you can choose brightness contrast. And again, we're going to add contrast. It's going to do it to the whole entire image. So we're going to click Command I and just paint it on where we want it. So we don't want to add it to the blanket because it'll just brighten it up more. Layer, flatten, click it again, brightness and contrast again, but this time we're going to lower the brightness. Going to do it to the whole photo like it has done the other times. Command I will take the whole adjustment away and we can just paint it on now. So we want to darken maybe the arm there, I think. And where I've just darkened this blanket here, if I felt that that was too much, I could just change it to black and I can either completely redo it or I could just lower the opacity and go over so that I'm just doing it at only 50%. And that's the black and white done.